It's 8:30, and I'm going to call the Clay County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, July 16th to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of requesting the approval of Resolution 2024-23, approving the appointment of the Water Commission of the West Central Regional Water District representation.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens present who want to address an issue that is not on today's agenda? Steve, do we have anybody online?
We do not, but Mr. Chair, if I could give just a brief update from last week. Last week, I brought forward a concern about some potential rutting in the ditch that the citizen felt that maybe it came from one of our mowers. Our highway department did reach out and go out there and look at the site. We didn't have anyone in that site, and it appears that it was maybe a neighbor that did some of the damage. And so just wanted to confirm that we did look into it and that it wasn't the county's issue with the damage.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate the update. Next, we have approval of payments of bills and vouchers.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And next, we have approval of minutes from July 2nd, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any revisions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next, we have request for approval of MnDOT grant agreement and resolution 2024-20 for SAP 014-598-078.
Yes, good morning. So the first one I have today is a grant agreement for SAP 14-598-078. So this is bridge bonding for a bridge replacement on County Road 115. As required by MnDOT, there is a grant agreement and supporting resolution in your packet. Any questions on the grant agreement or resolution?
Any questions for Justin? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-20 for,
I'll second the motion.
thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. You're still
Yes.
up, Justin.
So the
Let me intervene on one thing. My mistake, earlier I should have recognized the support for the Sheriff's Office K-9 program that we received from the Holly Lions. As usual, it's a generous donation, helps support our program, and I want to make sure that we recognize their contribution. So, thank you for letting me interject, and go ahead.
Yes. Second item I have is approval of another MnDOT grant agreement and resolution for SAP 14-637-004. So this is a bridge bonding and grant agreement for CASA 37 up by Ulen. So in order to use bridge bond funds, you have to have a grant agreement and supporting resolution. That's what I have before you now.
Discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the grant agreement and resolution 2024-21.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I apologize, I did misspeak. So that one was for 610-034, but Commissioner Mojo did have the grant agreement correct. I just had the project number incorrect. So this next one is for CASA 37 up by Ulen. The previous one was CASA 10 just east of Downer. So this is the same thing, grant agreement and resolution.
Discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the grant agreement and resolution 2024-22.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
That's all I got. Thank you.
See the line move. Thank you, Justin. Okay, next we will be moving into a closed session.
Mr. Chair, I think with closed session at 8:50, if you'd like, we could probably slide a few other things here prior to that 8:50 mark, just to make sure that we have our person from David Drowns on. And so I'm actually going to sit in on for Kathy on this second one, or this next item number 6, if that
6.
is appropriate.
Okay, go ahead, Steve. It's a request for out-of-state travel for the opioid program manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kathy's on vacation here today, so I agreed to sit in for her. Annabelle Dufault is looking at going to the national conference in Nashville and is requesting that she be granted permission from the board to attend the conference outstate. The funding for the entire conference, airfare and meals, will be covered by a grant that she has received.
Any questions for Steve?
No questions. I just feel bad for the folks that had to go to Milwaukee a couple years ago, and her conference is in Nashville. Great.
Well, Nashville is a little warm this time of year, but she probably won't be seeing the sights during daylight hours. So.
No offense to Milwaukee, but
I was just gonna say, what's so bad about Milwaukee?
I'm just saying. Certainly, well, since I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I just would make another note that Annabelle was here a few weeks ago and talked about a number of grants that she's applied for and received. She received another $10,000 grant here recently, so she continues to work hard and knock it out of the park. So
She is doing a really good job. Just give feedback from my perspective on the work she's done. We have a good player on the team there. Okay, we might as well take a break.
well, I could do a couple more if you. I could
Okay,
do.
yeah, we got budget presentations.
Well, why don't
I can do my report if is that helpful?
Yeah, we can do that. Well, I've got, I believe Kevin starts off if you want to.
Oh,
I just
maybe I'm not ready.
volunteered Kevin.
It's not 10:30 yet.
There you go.
Oh, I can go. Yeah, thank you. On July 9th, we had a Diversion Authority Planning Committee meeting. There were, most of the items on that agenda dealt with the executive director job description and the timeline in moving forward for that to come before the full Diversion Authority Board on both description and then the timing for the advertising for that position. And I think we're looking at a September timeframe for that to all happen by, so. And then we received some updates on Water Topics Overview Committee in North Dakota and also the North Dakota Governor's Office project update. And then there was some discussion about the North Dakota legislative outreach. Currently, the Diversion Authority has a lobbyist in North Dakota. And because there's really no plans right now to go back to the legislature for more funding, there was some discussion, and I think there was a recommendation that's going to be made to the Diversion Authority to cancel that contract for the lobbyist, but with the potential of keeping them on a retainer, subject to any basically to monitor legislation for something that could have impacts to the diversion project. So, but in terms of the funding, I don't think there's any intent to need to go back to the North Dakota legislature.
Mr.
At this,
Can I ask a question? Thank you. As part of my report, I'll talk about the Chamber Public Policy Committee that I attended last week, and there were discussion in regards to Minnesota legislative work and advocacy, and as you had that conversation, was there any discussion about utilizing that lobbyist for work in St. Paul to help us as we continue our discussions?
So I brought up, I brought up the fact that, that we were considering a lobbyist for our needs in terms of the residential PRTF. And, I just kind of put it out there that, and of course, Mayor Carlson was there as the chair and represents Moorhead, and I just wanted to let them know that we were looking at a lobbyist for some of our needs. And, would it be reasonable to consider that, whoever we get for that, to also help with our future requests for funding on the Minnesota side? I think that the lobbyist that they had in North Dakota was a firm out of Bismarck, probably more in connection with North Dakota legislature than they would be Minnesota legislature. So, so whether or not we're able to maybe partner with, and then I know the city of Moorhead also has its own lobbyist. And so I think that the whole idea there was maybe we should try to work together on the joint issues that Minnesota's asking for and how we might fund that lobbyist position. So, and I hope that answers your
Yeah, it does. I think given the discussions and maybe the comments and feedback that we had at the Capitol, as you discuss further with that planning group, it really is important to have a unified front as we go down there, and that includes the diversion authority. We were down there in the capacity of Clay County, and Moorhead joined us in that, but if we're asking for those funds for work on the Minnesota side as part of this project, we're really going to need to have a presence of the diversion authority as part of that ask. And so I wasn't necessarily meaning that lobbyist for instance, needs to be in St. Paul, but the ask is quite large. And as we know, it's becoming more competitive to access those funds and planning how the ask happens. And so the more we can plan that, the better.
Yeah, and I think that's well taken, and I think that's probably the intent, or at least that was my intent on bringing it up and where we could potentially go with that.
Yeah, if I could just interject on that, I think when I first came on the diversion board, you and I both had, this was some years ago, but a meeting with the executive director and talked to him about the need for his presence in the legislative meetings or sessions on this. And I think whoever the next executive director is, that needs to be put in there, both in Bismarck and St. Paul, that they have to have a presence in helping us address our needs with our state legislatures.
Okay, then just continuing on, then we also had a co-executive director update by Michael Redlinger, and I think I sensed a hint of pressures on the co-executive directors just because of the involvement of work and then their other job duties that they have under their normal job, which is full-time job. So he didn't come out and say that, but we thank them for their continued work on that. Then Wednesday, we had a special meeting of the MCC GAPA, and it was primarily a closed session that dealt with some land negotiations on quite a few parcels in Clay County. And we went through that process, and then in open session, we did agree to enter into that negotiated settlement moving forward. So, and that was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was 12 parcels in Clay County, but it was all owned by one family, and it was really significant, and an awful lot of work was involved with that. We certainly want to thank the landowners for the way they approached the negotiations and the way they were willing to come to an agreement. And also to our land agents and our engineers that worked on it. Obviously, when you're dealing with that, there's an awful lot of, there were certain things where there were flowage easements involved. There were other things where there was actually construction on some of the parcels and temporary easements. It was just a lot of complicated issues there. And so our lands team, our land agents, and our attorneys, they all did a really good job, and that was a big one. It was a multi-million-dollar land acquisition there. So then on the rest of the week, the Wednesday afternoon through Friday, I was in Duluth for the annual conference for the Minnesota Service Cooperatives, which I represent, Lakes Country Service Cooperative. And that was a really well run conference, and the speakers were really good. Joe Schmidt was a speaker on Thursday morning. He was a former sportscaster, anchor in the Minneapolis area, was pretty well known. And then Friday we had this print is really small here, so anyway, we had another really good speaker on Friday that dealt with the leadership issues. We had a panel which former state representative or state senator Roger Moe was on, as well as others that basically talked about the previous legislative session and where they think this next legislative session is going. And so it was and of course Duluth is a beautiful city, and we had time to see a little bit of that area and how that is really economically really booming right now in that area. And it's good to see that happening in Minnesota. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I think we've got our closed session, and the representative is online, I believe. Thought I saw that come up. Okay. Entertain a motion to move into closed session.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to move into closed session for board discussion regarding labor negotiations per Minnesota statute 13D.03.
Second.
A motion to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're going to move into closed session. And next up, we have the Soil and Water Conservation District, Kevin Kassenborg and team. Morning, gentlemen. You would turn on, are you? Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. I was going to introduce a couple of my supervisors, Jerry Buttonoff, and Randy Shellock. Like I say, once again, we're here to discuss and kind of go over our 2025 budget request, and thanks for allowing us to be on your agenda. Most of you probably know we are a small staff. We only have six members. We survive on state grants, self-generated programs such as our tree planting program and our no-till drill program, and our county allocation. Looking at the expense side first, I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but most of our programs stay pretty much the same from year to year, but I think you'll be hearing much more about soil health issues that coming down to not only federal dollars, but state dollars, and more on cover crops and that type of thing that our landowners are looking forward to, hopefully taking some advantage and maybe getting some funding through the state. We're seeing increases in our salaries and benefits for the upcoming year. We do follow the county's cost of living adjustment of 3%. Our health insurance provider is projecting a 10% increase this coming year. Our department, as a rule, sees very little turnover. Last year, we did hire 2 new employees, as we had 1 person that retired, so we do have a couple new faces in the office, which is always fun. With new employees comes the need for training, and meeting expenses seem to have risen in the last year, which is something that we have been in the process of getting our newest employees trained. One of them is at a county ag inspector training session in Grand Rapids as we speak. And with that, increased vehicles, we did purchase a used vehicle this past spring. Growing pains, that all is part of the deal, and the used vehicle now, that also we have some vehicle expenses that we hadn't had in the past, as well as the insurance increases. And as a rule, just things, it seems like everything's are increasing in cost these days. On the revenue side, with last year's state budget surplus, we did see an increase to some of our state grants the last year. Most of the state grant program funding has stayed the same for this upcoming year. I guess for 2023 and 2024. Concerns in the future, those funds that were approved last year are one-time appropriations. So we're going to be looking at going back to the funding amounts that we had gotten previously to 2023, starting next year. Last year, we had a district capacity account that the state of Minnesota had developed through a Clean Water Fund program. Last year, our MASWCD, our association, fought, in which they've been fighting for the last 8 years, got put into the Department of Revenue account, and after 8 years of lobbying, that's been a success. And I know Commissioner Krabenoff was a key component of us getting in on the governor's budget. The 2024 legislative session, our association lobbying efforts unsuccessfully in their attempts to retain that funding level in the future. They will be going back to the legislators next year to try to bring that up to the present levels, but our concerns are definitely that we're going to be seeing a reduction in the future. So what does that mean to us? With SWCD aid being reduced 20% next year, we're looking at $36,000 less for next year than what we received the last couple years. Our plans for moving forward: earlier this spring, our district technician, who is also the county feedlot officer now, he's been employed with us for 8 years. He informed us that he is going to be leaving to take over his family farm. He's from Callaway, Minnesota. Something he's always wanted to do. We knew this was going to happen sometime down the road. We do wish him well, but it's going to be leaving a hole in our operation. Good guy to have on staff, and after we got him trained, now it's time for him to do something different. So our only saving grace in this process, I guess, is his folks told him that you're going to have to find something to do in the off-season, in the winter months. So we approached him, would there be something that, why not make us that off-season help? And so we're working out an arrangement which we have in place to have him work half-time with us. So he'll continue in the aspect of the county feedlot officer, so that position that he's been in for the last couple of years, he will be doing that, as well as filling in when and where we can use him. So though we hate to see this happen, it will help ease some of the impact due to that SWCD aid being reduced for next year. So kind of, I guess, kind of sour, good and bad, I guess, sweet and sour. So we want to emphasize our concerns following the 2023 legislative session, that the amounts were one-time appropriations, so reverting back to the existing base funding amounts that will be coming in the next biennium and beyond. We're hoping that our association will be, will come through and be successful this next go-around. Meeting with our legislators is something we've been doing yearly to get our face out to those folks and meet our legislators. So overall, right now, our county budget proposal reflects a 3.2% increase is what we're looking for over our 2024 request. As always, we appreciate the time and the continued support of the county board. And I guess that ends my little spiel, but any questions, or Jerry or Randy, anything to add?
Any questions? Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. If I might, I just want to reiterate the conversation in regards to the ability for the SWCD to leverage grants, and the advocacy for projects there is just enormous. It really changes what we see in the requests, but you do such a great job in regards to how you are working with landowners, and as I'm talking to people throughout the county, all over the place, they're really grateful for the fact that you're always willing to go out on site, meet with folks, see how we can mitigate issues, and now you've really pivoted as well to offer that service to folks that live in the urban areas as well. You've done a really great job with urban conservation efforts and building an awareness to folks to allow them to know what's really available for them. So thank you for that. And I'll piggyback a little bit on losing Gabe, if you will. He's done such a great job in regards to the feedlot component for the county and working through those reporting requirements. Certainly we'll miss him in the full capacity, but I really do appreciate the fact that there's an ability to make something work in the interim for the county to make sure that those vital services aren't left unmet, and find a niche, if you will, for the work. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, just a short comment too, as we've all noted, whether it's working through the watershed districts and with the one watershed, one plan, certainly your budget and your work, your scope has changed significantly over the last, well, particularly 3 years. But as that money keeps coming in through the legacy amendment, through the sales tax, you know, that workload, we understand, increases over time, and appreciate the work, because to Commissioner Mojo's point, you know, you're on the landscape a lot more now in a broader sense than you ever were before. So thus was the need for 2 more employees. So, yep, good job.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we have Joe Olson with the Facilities Department budget.
All right. Morning, Mr. Chair and board members. So, just going to do just a quick recap on what my budget covers. Really, I have two budgets here. One is the one you see that starts with 01. It's called the courthouse LEC grounds building, and then the second one is the FSC operating fund. So those are the two. The general 01 budget covers the courthouse and the LEC, the jail, the DMV, the storage, a little bit of detox salaries, which I'll talk about later, and then we've added a safety line in there. It's not really an addition, it's a switch from one budget to another, and I'll explain that too. So, and then the Family Service Center has 3 different categories in there. The central services mailroom, building manager, and the building and grounds portion is those 3 make up that budget. So I will start with the 01 courthouse budget here, and I'll just touch on some of the highlights, and then feel free to ask if you see something you need clarified. So as far as the revenue coming in here, we have a projected of $127,276, and where we get that revenue is variable hour custodian is factored in over at the RRC. And then we also charge a maintenance, portion of our maintenance, a quarter of our maintenance fee to the RRC as well. And then the custodian detox is also another revenue that Kathy's budget will pay here. Those expenses are actually down in the expense side too. So it's really an in and an out, but that's what's projected there. So as far as that's what that is. And then this year, for staff, we have 20 full-timers, 7 variable hours, and 2 permanent part-time. So for new requests, the one thing we are asking is for an additional 260 variable hours is what we want to do and what we want to try this year, since we have some more work up at DMV and the detox. We'd like to try that variable hour position and use it mostly in the summertime and for the outdoor work and picking up garbage and stuff. And then we'd like to use that position to help a little bit more with the government center as well. So we're asking just for that additional to see how that works up there and see what is actually needed. I priced out, hiring that out versus this, and this is much more, a lot less, and we think it will work. So that's one request that we are doing, and then we are also asking, spend 10 years, we're asking an additional $7,800 to add to our budget. The maintenance on-call pay has not been adjusted within 10 years, and we're asking to increase that. So I met with Steve and Darren and Lori, and we came up with what would be a decent adjustment there, but then every year it would just adjust with the COLA, so we don't have that large jump. But so that's the second one, and then we are asking. I have $15,000 in our equipment over 500, and that is to purchase a lawnmower for the new facilities up there, the resource recovery and detox area there too, and a trailer, so we can kind of take it mobile to the government center. So that's our 3 new requests that we have in there.
Wasn't there a recommendation to take that off of your budget and take it out of the?
Yeah, yes, good point. The recommendation was to look at working with the construction crew for the detox and DMV and see if we have that in our FF&E. So that is, good point, could be dropped off and moved over to there. So I do plan on bringing estimates and stuff to the next construction committee for approval there too. So those are the requests that I have there. As far as anything, just to touch on the safety budget portion you see in there, used to be in Darren's budget, now it's in mine. I run the safety committee, and we just felt it's better off in mine so I can track it, and I was dealing with the bills anyway, so it worked out good there. But other than that, there not much other increases in this budget. Any questions on the courthouse?
Questions for Joe? Proceed.
Okay, we'll move to the FSC here. We'll just start up at the central services line item. There's not a whole lot going on there. We made a couple adjustments downwards, just some small minor categories that we didn't need, so not a whole lot going there. If you were to go, and then the building manager one, also same thing, not much there. That figures half of my salary, and then my salary is also charged half to the courthouse budget, but that's what that is. But really, the revenue on page 63 would be, is the first thing for the operating budget there. We have a projected revenue of $198,580. Again, that's another one of those we charge the juvenile center for a maintenance guy, and then we also charge the jail and the juvenile for the gas expenses connected to the boiler. So there's a square footage equation that we use to hook up or to charge them every year at the end of the year. So that is what is projected this year for that. As far as your rent, the rent is on the next page under unallocated. We have a projected rent of $1,249,507. That didn't change from last year, so we didn't have any increases, so that should be the same there as well. And then as far as a few things, we dropped both our gas and our electricity there. Electricity, we've been saving money. We put a bunch of LED lights in a year ago, and that has really saved a lot of money, so we were able to drop that. But other than that, the total revenue for the FSC is coming in at $1,457,087, and then we have total expenditures of $1,883,535. And so we got revenues under expenditures at $426,448. So in talking with Lori again, that's one of those where she factors in depreciation. That number is $365,000. So actual cash, we have $1,224,191. So is what we have right now for that. So certainly not a money-making building, but not so bad. So that is what I have. Questions for me on everything?
Any questions for Joe? Good presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Rory Schmidt, Technology Services Director. Rory, appreciate your patience. We were going to try and get you in early, but it didn't work. So we're getting you in late.
Nope, no problem. Well, I'll start off. If you recall, with our Caseworks environment, the board decided to cancel that hosting environment at the end of this calendar year. So any revenue that we had from the Caseworks environment will be going away past this calendar year. With that in mind, we also, a few weeks ago, the board approved a cybersecurity analyst position as well. So between that Caseworks revenue going away and that new position, that makes up a majority of the, a little over 5% of our estimated 6.16% increase here. Other than that, there really isn't any new requests this year, just a couple, $50,000 in internal services. We were able to reduce some costs with some contract negotiations with the managed print services. We can expect to see cut by about 50% in those fees. Otherwise, a lot of it is just shifting from different line items. So if we had a other professional services line, now we went to software, so I've just moved that to a different line item. Other than that, that's pretty clean cut here. Is there any questions?
Questions for Rory?
Thank you.
Looks like you're getting off easy for a long wait. Thank you, Rory. Steve's going to be next with request approval to accept a tax forfeiture settlement obligation. Lori Johnson, is she going to be remote or?
I think, no, she doesn't need to be here on this one. We're good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As this board is certainly aware, back in 2023, United States Supreme Court deemed that the Minnesota property tax forfeiture law was unconstitutional, in that it does not allow interested parties to claim surplus value in forfeitures that we handled. There were a total of 3 different class action lawsuits that were brought forward with this issue. And in the last legislative session, the Minnesota legislature set aside $109 million to deal with the settlements. A judge has dictated that from a settlement standpoint, that we've worked closely with the 87 counties in identifying our properties here within Clay County that would fall going back to June of 2016 through December 31st of 2023. We would be requesting that essentially you have to opt out if you don't want to be part of this settlement, but part of opting in or remaining in is allowing Ms. Johnson, Lori Johnson, to sign the participating county document that is part of the packet today. And so, based on the information that Ms. Johnson shared with the state, we were roughly looking at $601,582 in settlement. There's going to be a claims administrator that will be set up that will deal with each of the 87 counties and those who are impacted by this settlement. And so the request before this board today would be a motion to approve and accept the tax forfeiture settlement obligations established by the Minnesota legislature and allow the Clay County Auditor to submit to the Minnesota Property Tax Forfeiture Class Action Settlement Attestation of a participating county.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You knew I probably would comment on this one. The amount of work that went into this can't even be defined. I had the opportunity to serve on the state committee that worked through this and really looked at it in the most equitable way, wanting to make sure that property owners had the past property owners had the opportunity to be made whole by this ruling, and also making sure that counties weren't left on the hook for that as well, understanding that we're all doing as we were supposed to. Certainly, this is a really good settlement, and I would encourage the board to support this action today.
Any other comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve and accept the tax forfeiture settlement obligations established as outlaid.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Your budget's up next, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple different documents that I would like to share with you here this morning. Again, the first piece of it is just continuing to provide highlights or updates to the board on the half-cent sales tax in regards to the correctional facility and law enforcement center. As we discussed earlier, last year, in the last 12 months, we had about a 9% increase over the previous years, which has allowed us the half-cent sales tax then provides both the principal and interest payment without utilizing any levy dollars. As you can see through the first 6 months of this year, figures continue to come in strong from where we've been previous years, and through June have accumulated $2,121,830.43 in sales tax. And so as we move through the budget process here, getting to December, you're going to see that we will be making the recommendation that we'll continue to look to utilize the half-cent sales tax in lieu of any other additional levy dollars. With that, I'd yield for any questions on the sales tax.
Questions for Steve?
All right, thank you. And just in the second document, just wanted to cover quick before we go into levy of next year's, is just providing you a summary of revenues and expenditures by department. As we've discussed in all of our other budgets discussions, revenues generally fall behind, so this isn't a great document. Having said that, we don't see any anticipated challenges with the collections of the revenues. This is through June of this year, and so you will see from a budget standpoint that nearly every single budget is within that 50% of where we're at, other than the one items that are paid at one time during the year. And so those, from a financial standpoint, both in the generals and the specific departments, we're in a very strong position. With that, I'd yield for any questions, if anyone had any specific questions on a particular budget. If not, the next document is the summary of the 2025 tax levy by funds. again, as this board is aware, we began the process at the end of May, reaching out to our departments, asking them to bring forward budgets. We also reached out to non-county entities that we have provided funding to request their funding for the upcoming year. This document really is a culmination of taking everything at face value of the request. You guys have been hearing the presentations from our departments. You'll also be hearing updates or requests from some of our different non-government entities over the next few months. Generally, we've kept this document for a little bit later through the process, but are bringing it forward here just as a culmination. Again, if we take a look at, again, this is not addressed at all. It's just bringing all the information in the request forward. So if you see, take a look at our different categories, the tax levy requested for next year would be $812,164. There are 506,860.
That would be million.
Excuse me, million. 51,812,162. New requests of 506,867. You've heard a number of those new requests over the years, as we talked a little bit last week, and as this board is directed with the market study that's coming, we really went to our department heads this year and said, we don't want you to come forward with anything that you don't absolutely need. And so, while there are still new requests, it's down significantly from previous years. With that new request, that brings the total levy up to $52,319,031. And so we're waiting for county program aid. This dollar amount of $5.6 million is just an estimate. That has to be brought forward by statute by August 1st, and so we'll have a better figure or an ideal figure here within the coming weeks. That brings, with that subtraction, again, that county program aid is so important as it is able to impact all of our taxpayers, lower that burden throughout our county. That brings our spread levy to $46,682,380, or a 9.88% increase over last year's budget. We have new construction of 1.15, and so as a net levy increase, right now that would sit at 8.73. From a standpoint of previous years, we're generally in that 10 to 13% range from an increase. And so I think that from a start, and I know this is not an acceptable amount from where we'll have to go, but we are in a little bit of a better position from the starting standpoint than we've been in previous years. I would also note, just in discussion from impacts of the budget, that this does include all of the steps for our staff coming up for 2025. It also includes a potential 3% COLA increase. It also includes a 9% increase to our insurance fund, and it also impacts a number of increased new staff that are coming into the budget, whether they were brought forward in 2024, or we have roughly 24 additional staff that will come with the opening of our withdrawal management facility. And we also have a DMV interest payment here that is new from 2024. And so with that, I would yield for any questions.
Questions?
Is the anticipated increase in revenue for detox built into this?
It is, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Campbell.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Steve.
All right, we'll continue to work and bring updates as directed, and I know that, as I say, I know that number isn't an acceptable number, and so we'll bring back some additional ideas as we move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to committee reports, and Pick it up with Commissioner,
He's got one more.
We have the addition, Mr. Chair.
oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one last item here today. On July 2nd, this board unanimously appointed Commissioner Campbell, Commissioner Gross, and citizen at large Don Martindam to represent the county at the West Central Regional Water District Board of Directors, along with Polk and Norman County. As part of the process of establishing this through the courts are in need of identifying the board of directors, that there are a board of directors. And so before you this morning is Resolution 2024-23. It identifies only the Clay County 3 representatives and the dollar amount, which this board has already approved, $117,000 to move forward with the establishment of the water district. And so with that, I'd yield for any questions.
Questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution 2024-23.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Campbell?
Mr. Chair, I think the record should also just reflect, of course, it doesn't need to be part of this, but the $117,000 that Clay County is committed to as the maximum amount, that does come under, did come under special ARPA funding. I just think the record should note that. I know other counties have been expressing that they've used ARPA funding to establish this as well, and I, just in the event that there's a question moving forward, that was our resource of those funds.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now it's you, Commissioner Kravinoff.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of meetings last week. So July 9th, I had the continuation with the Cache Valley Food Partners our commission, our strategic planning. This is the fourth time we've met. Probably have one or two more sessions, but we keep narrowing it down, and we're moving forward. So it's be pretty working right now with our we've gone through the mission, the vision, and now we're working with our goals and objectives. So we'll be continuing that on. That we meet about every 2 weeks. The next day on Wednesday, I started out through the Clay SWCD. They hosted as part of a tour that was going up and down the valley here, called the Soils Alive along Highway 75. I went out to that. It was in conjunction with the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition. This project tour event was covered by the Board of Soil and Water Resources, which gave a grant to Clay County to put it all together. This was out at the Robert Olson Farm out by Hawley. Them and their family, they're active in doing cover crops and in building their fields with good soil health, good soil health program. It was a presentation for actually 6 hours that day. So it was very, very in-depth. There was about 140 people out there, and it's pretty amazing when they dig a hole that's 6 foot deep, and you start seeing the profile of these plants and what can happen when we just really use good covers and good farming practices, how these soils can really regenerate plant life below the in the soil profile. So it was a good learning experience for me and many others. That afternoon, I had my executive committee for the Adult Mental Health LIC. We set up our next agenda for the month, or for this month that we'll have next week, And with that, we took some extra time identifying other partners to become active in the LIC, and we probably found, pointed out to about 12 others that we felt had been there before, or we'd like to see them become involved with that LIC. So with that, we all took a few names, making calls, and hopefully that group will continue to grow. And I think each month, I feel like our discussions are become not only communicating what each group is and what we do, but I see more and more collaboration developing among the groups that participate. So, very positive. The next day, on the 11th, I had the Clay SWCD monthly board meeting. Much of the time was spent talking about that. The soil health program we all went through the day before. Really, I think that the rest of the meeting, just observing a few grants that were coming in, having to do with, once again, soil health. It was mentioned in their report, the amount of money coming in, and then there's a potential coming in with all the rain. Events that we're having that Clay County may, it's under review right now. It's 22 counties that we may get some, through Bowser, some disaster recovery assistance for the farm practices that are out there that were compromised. With that, they were going to have a booth, which they did at the fair, and I saw them out there, and I think that's probably the gist of most of that meeting. And the last two things actually were the Clay County Fair. And so we had on Friday, would have been our government day, and enjoyed our time out there. Obviously, 3 or 4 commissioners were out there, and it was eventful. I'm very happy when I'm able to go out there these days, just to see a lot of people in the community that I did grow up with. I did take my time to run through especially the sheep barn, because when I was in 4-H, I had sheep. And so anyway, and then I got to see the Mojo family in action, so that's always fun. Anyway, it was a good event. And then I did go back on Sunday also as part of the Clay County Extension, part of their awards program. And I just wanted to express with gratitude the great work. 2 people out of our area were recognized. Farm in the Dale, that I think we know about, their work on their 25-acre piece just north of town, working with kids with disabilities, employing them to do that. And then with that, what they grow, they have a CSA that they work with, as well as selling product at farm markets and having farm events out at the site. The other family recognized was Dwayne and Michelle Brindamule. The Brindamule farm is very active in the community. Dwayne's been active on grain boards and other important committees throughout Clay County, and their kids are active in the 4-H program, so they were recognized. So with that, that's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. Last week, I attended the special meeting of the Moorhead-Clay County Joint Powers Authority that was summarized well by Commissioner Campbell. Certainly, having worked through the diversion land management pieces as I have over the last few years, that family particularly was affected in a much larger way due to the realignment after the governor's task force. And I know it took a lot of work by many different parties to get to that resolution last week, particularly the landowners. So I just really want to commend them and the staff for the work in which it took to get to that point. The next day, I attended the Chamber Public Policy Committee meeting. We did have a really good update from Mayor Carlson on diversion work and updates there. I did present on behalf of the Minnesota side in regards to legislative recap, summary, discussing how the bonding tour and capital investment committee projections look, and talked a little bit about future endeavors in terms of collaborating, which is why I asked the question to Commissioner Campbell in regards to lobbying efforts. Certainly, however, we can work together to leverage the mutual needs helps us in the best way possible. I also attended and stayed at the fairgrounds last week. I want to give a huge shout out to the Clay County Fair Board for their immense amount of work to lift such a event in Clay County. They are recipients of some levy dollars and really utilize that in such a great way. To thank them for that. And then also the Extension Office does a lot of work to make sure that that event is lifted for the young people in our community. And FFA has really done a great job of doing that as well. So thank you to all of those folks who participated in likely the warmest weekend of the summer. Thank you. That concludes my reports.
Thank you. Last week, on the 10th, I attended remotely the Northwest Emergency Communication Board meeting. A lot of discussion led by Brian Zastapil, who's our technical advisor there, and also with the Red River Regional Dispatch Center on upgrades to armor system. We talked about a participation grant. The allocation has been limited to radio equipment, not what we would really like to see is some assistance paying for terminals, but that's not in the cards this time around. And there's a dispatch laptop that can fill in emergencies or be taken to an area of operations and function as a miniature console. And some of the grant funding has been allocated to that to get one in our region. The RAC, the committee that's represents all of the PSAPs, and they're generally the technical folks, got into a very deep discussion for the rest of the meeting on next generation technology that left myself and most of the board sort of dumbfounded, but maybe we learned a little bit more than we knew to begin with. On the 11th, the next day, I went to the first meeting we're having. The AMC Public Safety Policy Committee needed to provide one member, and I'm the one they provided for a grant review that we're going to be doing for probably the rest of the year on $500,000 that's been allocated by the last legislative session for 50-50 matches for safe and secure courts in the state of Minnesota. We'll be taking applications. We reviewed the application, discussed the process. We also reviewed a scoring sheet that will be used, and this will probably be through November. There'll be a 2-month period after the end of applications to review all of them and to get them back in and have a group discussion on how we're going to allocate this. The committee is comprised of a couple of county representatives, folks from the county attorneys, Sheriff's Association, and the courts. So it's a pretty knowledgeable group. The conversations led me to believe some of them have been involved in the last 2 processes, so this should be an interesting opportunity. And I'm also going to talk to our sheriff, and it's something that we may want to take a look at as well. And again, Friday I was out at the Government Day at the Clay County Fair, and I'm a city boy. I never grew up around animals other than dogs, but it was a nice excursion out there, decent crowd, and it was just good to get out there and talk to people and give them an opportunity. Our city staff did an exceptional job of setting up there, and the interactive water bottle rockets from, was that solid waste that did that? Yeah. The kids love that, and it scared the heck out of a number of people, and one of those things would land close to them, but they had a lot of fun. And it was a good day at the fair. And that completes my report. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Tuesday, met with Mr. Melton and went through his pre-budget on the 9th. Also had department head evaluation. On the 10th, I met with Joel Olson on a series of county issues. On the 11th, participated in the chamber legislative update that Commissioner Mojo has addressed. That 11th, also met with Darren and Anna, with Tessa from David Drowns in regards to the market study information. On the 15th, participated in the pre-budget with the sheriff and also extension. Yesterday, also had a meeting with the city of Moorhead and drug court officials, trying to clarify some things in the JAG grant funds that this board approved to work with the city of Moorhead on for drug court, to try to figure out exactly what city of Moorhead needs so we can release those funds. And yesterday afternoon, met with Anna and Darren again in regards to market study. Just a note today on your upcoming meetings, we have posted the Heartland Trail open house this evening in Glendon from 5:30 to 7:30. They're going to be presenting as part of the study 3 different alignments and getting input from our communities. And so that is an opportunity for citizens to share their thoughts. I would note we are going to have a representative from MetroCog next week as they're working through the Heartland study process. We provided funding for them both this year and part of next year. And they're going to be coming next year to talk a little bit about that, about the possibility of upfronting some of those funds to complete the study, so there's not any lapse in the time between funding resources. And with that, I yield, or I'm done with my report.
Thank you, Steve. Brian, anything for us? You got anything? You've talked enough, Darren? Okay. Jackie, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification in our upcoming events for the Heartland Trail Study Open House. We have it listed here as the Clay County, or the Glendon City Hall. It's actually at the Glendon Community Center. And we have that information on our website as well.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any other business?
I'm not going to the fall policy conference.
If not, we're adjourned.